And bounds. Angela,
Hello.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Does Santa need to bring you a new car?
No, I just had to turn around and swap vehicles. I heard a noise that I hadn't heard before, and I got to the highway, and I'm like, I better go swap vehicles.
That's pretty smart. Can you describe the noise, and all of our mechanics will help you out? Was it a clinkety
No,
or
it was just like a roar,
transmission.
No,
Perez has given me that one before.
Nah, it wasn't transmission. I know how to diagnose that one.
There you go. I'm glad you're here and safely. Boy, lots to talk about, and let's coast through this short segment here so we can have more time. But first of all, the 2022 session is just a few weeks away. Always sneaks up on us like that. When at least this year is going to be only 3 months, so that's good news. But what do you want to see happen as far as some of your legislation, and are you going to drop any bills this year?
Yeah, I'm going to drop a couple of bills. I've dropped critical race theory bills last year, and they didn't go anywhere. And if you look at the mainstream or whatever you want to call it press, they kind of ridiculed the bills and kind of made some some noise about the bills. But they'll be coming back. You were talking in that previous segment about education. One thing that I continue to hear from teachers, especially high school teachers and college teachers, is that we have a problem with our students being able to do well with written communication. And that's a big issue that we really need to look at is, our kids need to be able to graduate high school and they need to be able to communicate orally and by the written word. And that's something that, these state tests that we give, I don't think the high school English 2 test really is focused at all on, grammar and punctuation and writing, according to what these teachers tell me. And I think that that's part of our problem is that we're continuing to teach toward these tests, and these tests aren't necessarily providing what our students truly need to be able to be successful, to be able to communicate and get a job, put out communication that's free of errors. I see more and more errors in communication that when I get emails from people, and that's a serious problem that we want to make sure that our teachers in the classroom especially and our students can communicate effectively and correctly.
But hasn't social media allowed us to do that, though? Because quite a few years ago, as we moved into texting and everything else, and everybody had it, was if somebody put a cap or all caps or something, then the society as a whole would have jumped on you and said, man, you misspelled this or that. But we've gotten to the point we do it so fast, we do it so much that we allow bad writing on social media. And you think it's kind of exacerbated the situation?
I mean, I don't always use, complete sentences on social media, but the difference is when I'm going to write something formally to communicate, I know the difference. And I'm not so sure that, these kids really know the difference anymore, and that's the problem.
The other part of this, too, is there, and I mentioned this earlier when Ryan was on just a few minutes ago, we were talking with Ryan and also with Garrett McGinnis, that a lot of schools don't see the importance of educating their kids or making it aware, not so much educating, but giving them a forum in class to have these people come in and say, look, if you don't go to college, here are wonderful opportunities. As a former teacher, am I off base here, or is there a resistance to do that in some schools?
Well, I don't know about all schools. I know in our schools, in my area, we have job fairs, and we have people from industry come in and talk to these students.
Is it enough?
I still think
is that enough of one of your job fairs?
I don't think it's enough because, and I'll tell you why. Whereas the counselors in the schools need to be looking at, helping these kids find their next step in life and, find whether or not they're going to go into a vocational trade or whether they're going to go to a university. They're focused on making sure that these kids pass these tests. And that takes up this testing takes up a lot of time from these counselors, and they're working on class schedules and testing much more than then they're working on career development for the students. And I think that is a void, but I think that they run out of time, and they've got to do what they're told that they've got to do. So I think that we've got to have maybe more personnel in the school, and I'm not typically advocating for growing government, but those counselors, if you have one counselor in a school, they can't focus on career development and getting all the tests, making sure these kids have passed these tests, getting these schedules together, and doing the paperwork that they have to do. That's the whole problem just with teachers, counselors, and everybody else. It's become a paper pushing job, almost to the detriment of teaching and counseling.
Look, as a parent and grandparent, and I'm never shy of making some suggestions here, but to me it seems like a good idea that this has to be done on a regular basis, certainly more than once a year job fair to show these kids, because to me the number one thing is igniting that idea and touching that job with their passion that they may not even know. It kindles that, and all of a sudden it changes a life. But to have these kids, as I mentioned before, because we've had some outstanding young people on the air with us who have done that. They've moved from the 12th grade, got an education, went into the workforce, and 2 or 3 years later, these kids are able to at least buy their own vehicle. Some of them have actually financed a home. Now, we're living the American dream and have a good job and the possibility in that business to grow and to maybe retire there. But to have these kids back in the classroom, if they don't want to take it in place of gym or in place of math, I can understand that. But have it during recess. Have people coming in.
Apprenticeship programs are, in my opinion, the way to go.
Absolutely. And I mean, because those young adults, the kids in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, they can relate more than anybody else to those young people who are coming in and have made that switch to the workplace. I want to talk more and also about the 22 session and what's going on in Washington, D.C. with Senator Angela Hill. It's all coming up next. I see Angela Hill, Senator Hill, District 40, by the way, Marion County and Pearl River counties. She is Chair of County Affairs Senate Committee and also Vice Chair of Accountability, Efficiency, Transparency, and the Senate committees. And you've been on any of the committee as far as the personal income tax question?
No, I have not been on any of those committees.
All right, let me. By the way, there is a story out there. I don't know if people have heard this morning. There was a gunman who opened fire last night on a crowd that had gathered at a celebration of life, a pro-life event in Baytown, Texas. Motorists drove by the location, opened fire, striking a number of people. The injured were rushed to area hospitals. At least one person was killed. A child is also believed to have been injured. Harris County Sheriff's Office told the media there that one person had been killed, 3 others critically injured. That's the latest story we have on that in Texas. Unbelievable.
You probably won't hear a lot about that on the national news.
No, you won't. Let me switch over real quick and talk about what's going on as far as the anything else you want to talk about as far as workforce development in that one, and as far as teachers are concerned.
Something that could potentially affect workforce development. We've continued to hear from the medical marijuana folks. Yeah. And we know the draft that's been floating around the Capitol, which is kind of been nicknamed Reefer Madness by some of the Republican women in the state. So I am actually working on what I would consider a legitimate medical cannabis bill because a lot of people in the Capitol have told me they want an alternative to the Reefer Madness bill. So, I'm trying to work on something that I would consider a legitimate medical cannabis bill, similar to what some other states have, where it's actually working and is not going out of control like it is in Oklahoma. Because we need to be able to learn from what's going on in Oklahoma and not fashion a bill for Mississippi that's going to take us down the very similar road to Oklahoma. So, I just wanted to, let the public know that I am trying to work on that. And, I don't have a problem with people getting anything that alleviates their symptoms, but it's the manner in which that it's delivered to them that many of us have a problem with. And we want people to get it from a pharmacist. We want people to get it in a medicinal form. And we don't want people to be able to go into it and get it from a bud master and come out with a bag of weed that will make a lot of joints in a month.
Wait a minute. But the juxtaposition on how you do that legally, because a pharmacist can't be dealing in marijuana, can they?
Well, there are pharmacists in many states. If you look at the laws in Minnesota, Louisiana, Utah, those pharmacists are the ones who actually have to counsel the patient and deliver the medicine to. So they actually are participating in other states. So,
Okay, but they're not the vendors, though. They are
working in the pharmacies or the specialty pharmacies. Actually, they call them specialty pharmacies in Louisiana, and they're licensed by the Louisiana Board of Pharmacy. There's 9 of them.
They don't have pot shops. They have a specialty.
They don't have pot shops. They have a specialty pharmacy, and the patient medicine is delivered by the pharmacist. They're counseled on their medicine by the pharmacist and by the physician that recommends whatever dosages that the patient that they feel like the patient will benefit from. So that's what I'm looking at, is these other states that have actual pharmacists involved in the delivery of the product to the patient, instead of the patient walking into a pot shop and dealing with a bud master who's had 4 to 8 hours of education and coming out with, candies, gummies, all range of marijuana, high potency THC, concentrates, that type of thing. Many of us want to have it delivered as a medicine in a medicinal form. We don't want it marketed to children in gummies and brownies. Because we've seen the problems that's created in other states. So it's just like history. We talk about, why can't we learn and not repeat, history when it turns out bad? It's the same way with looking at how other states have handled medical cannabis. Some have handled it really badly, and they're paying the price for it, and some have handled it really well. And I'm looking at the states that have handled it really well.
I think Oklahoma is a poster boy on how not to handle it.
Exactly.
From what we hear, the horror stories coming through there. And a lot of people in different states pleading with Mississippi, do this right, or you're going to have some problems. Let me put it this way. Since the governor decided not to call a special session, do you think this issue has marinated more concern or less concern that the present bill is more for profits than for patients?
I think there's a tremendous amount of more concern even amongst legislators, because when legislators talk to me about it and they potentially haven't read the 277-page bill that's floating around because they feel like, well, it's going to change again, so why should I read it? Well, I read it, and when I share some of the things that are in the bill with these other legislators, they look at me and say, well, I'm not voting for that. So I think the main thing is legislators need to read the bill, and they need to understand that you're walking into a pot shop, potentially unlimited number of them across the state of Mississippi, where the counties cannot control where they're located. The cities can opt out, but then there's a referendum that the citizens can vote it back in. So we won't just, if you want it treated like a pharmacy, then I'm going to have a bill that's going to treat it like a pharmacy, a legitimate pharmacy, where you take your card from the health department and you walk in there and you counsel with the pharmacist and you come out with a medicinal form of cannabis and you come out with instructions on how to take it.
Would your bill, or will your bill, allow smoking?
It will not. I don't know any legitimate medical provider that thinks that inhaling something into your lungs is medicine, especially something on fire. Now, nebulizers, inhalers, things like that people for asthma take, that is medicine. But just lighting one up is not medicine. So, all the delivery...
So your bill would allow marijuana through vaping if the doctor prescribes
Not vaping. Not vaping.
Okay.
They're metered dose inhalers, and they're nebulizers that other states have adopted.
Senator Hill, have you talked to anybody on the House side that would be working with you on this?
Yes, I have several on the House side that are extremely interested in a bill like this, and quite a few that would like to put their name on a bill like this.
Interesting. So we'll see what happens with that.
So if you want medicine, if you want medical cannabis, and you want it in a true medicinal format, there is going to be an alternative.
Well, I think that's what 65A was about, wasn't it?
I think it was, and I think that the media lied so much about, what 65A would be or what they said it would be. They had the big narrative out there that if you weren't terminally ill, you couldn't get it, which was not true at all. But that was what the media carried to try to destroy 65A. But, there's a wide range of conditions that people could have and get access to it. I think that those wide range of conditions are fine. I didn't like it when the Board of Medical Licensure told people that they could not get their pain medication and their anxiety medication anymore together. Everybody doesn't abuse medicine, and if it helps somebody and they're taking their medicine and they're functioning, I'm for somebody getting relief.
So it looks like what we're going to
the culture, the culture shift that that this so-called medical marijuana draft would bring. It's more of a recreational marijuana type scenario in this draft, and that I would just prefer that honesty be out there with the people as to what this actually is or is not.
So it looks like we'll have competing bills from compassionate care from Angela Hill to reefer madness on the other side.
I would say that sums it up pretty well.
In the limited time we have left here, and again, Senator Angela Hill, your thoughts on what is going on as far as the Supreme Court and the dramatic changes that could take place in June when they make their final opinion.
Yeah, I tell you, there's a lot of people across the country that think that there's a pretty good shot of the Mississippi bill having tremendous impact on the future of abortion law across the country. And I'm looking forward to their solution, to what they come up with. But I think just the mere fact that they agreed to have oral arguments and to actually hear the case tells me that there's an appetite to alter the outcome of the 1973 decision.
Angela Hill, looking forward to talking to you again when the session's on. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas, Paul.